There's a parking lot outside a motocross track on a Saturday morning at 7:45. The trucks are already there, the trailers are already open. Someone is doing something very technical to a carburetor that does not need to be done. Someone else is watching them and offering opinions. A guy in riding gear that costs more than a decent used car is doing a very casual pre-ride stretch that is definitely for the benefit of nobody in particular. And somewhere in that parking lot, there is a bike that has not been started in 4 months, ridden here specifically so its owner could remember why he does this. Nobody in that parking lot could easily explain to you why they are there before 8 in the morning on a weekend. They would try if you asked. They would say something about the riding. And that would be true, but not entirely. Because the bike is never entirely about the bike. And yet every single one of them would rather be nowhere else on Earth. Dirt bikes and supermotos do not attract casual people. They attract people who need something specific, something the rest of their week cannot provide. And what they choose and why they choose it and what they do with it once they have it tells you more about them than they would probably like you to know. The first type you need to understand is the one who treats the motocross track like a second job he actually cares about. This is the person for whom riding is not a hobby, it is the central organizing principle of the entire week. Weekends are for the track. Vacations are planned around riding areas. His phone's camera roll is 90% onboard footage and 10% things he photographs specifically to remember and then never looked at again. His truck bed has seen more mud than any truck bed in a 200-mile radius, and he considers that a reasonable source of pride. The Kawasaki KX450 is not a toy. The KTM 450 SXF is not a toy. These are professional tools that he happens not to be paid to use. And that distinction bothers him not at all. The psychology here is not adrenaline. It is not even the speed. It is mastery. This person has found a domain that demands total physical commitment, attention, timing, nerve, fitness, and the willingness to get something badly wrong before you get it right. He responds to that demand by giving it everything he has every single weekend, which tells you something important about the rest of his life. Because what he is looking for is a place where effort is immediately, honestly rewarded, where the track does not care about his performance review or his inbox or whether he said the right thing in the Tuesday morning meeting, where skill is the only currency that matters. He has found something that requires everything. That is not an accident. That is a choice made by someone who finds most of the rest of his life slightly underdemanding and who needed somewhere to put all of that. The second type is considerably more complicated and also considerably funnier. He bought a Honda CRF 450R, or he says he bought it for the kids, which is a sentence that has never once in the history of motorsport been entirely true. It lives in the garage. It is extremely clean, because clean is what it is when it is not being ridden, which is always. It has been taken out somewhere between 2 and 4 times since purchase, not counting the one family outing that the whole family participated in and that was described afterward as a great success by exactly one person in the family. He walks past it on a Tuesday evening on the way to find something in a box he has not opened since they moved, and he thinks, I really should take it out this weekend. He has been thinking this for approximately 11 months. The interesting thing is that he will probably take it out exactly once more before selling it, at which point he will immediately regret selling it and look for another one. This is a documented cycle. What he is actually thinking about when he looks at that bike is not the bike. It is not the track. It is not even the riding. What he is thinking about is a version of himself that existed before the mortgage and the career trajectory and the school run schedule, a version that had fewer obligations and considerably more mud on his boots and did not spend this much time in meetings. The bike is not transportation. The bike is not really even a bike anymore, in the truest functional sense. It is a negotiation with time. A physical, expensive, slightly impractical statement that he is not quite done with that version of himself yet. He bought it to keep the option open, an option he will never quite close and never quite exercise. And that is not a failure. That is one of the more quietly honest things a person can do. The third type does not negotiate with time. He converted a 450 motocross engine onto 17-inch road wheels and rides the result through city traffic in a manner that makes the stoplights feel like a personal inconvenience directed specifically at him. The supermoto guy is not commuting. He is not even really riding in the conventional sense. He is performing. The city is his track, and the audience is everyone pedestrians, other drivers, delivery cyclists, and traffic cameras that are reconsidering their entire professional purpose. He is doing a wheelie on the main boulevard not because he has no other options, but because visibility is the point. The psychology here connects directly to what researchers describe as performance identity, the need to be witnessed doing something genuinely exceptional in a shared public space. The urban dirt bike and bike life culture that has grown in American cities over the last 2 decades is real, documented, and considerably older and more complex than most observers realize. It has the same psychological roots as skateboarding and freestyle BMX, the impulse to claim a public space through physical skill, to insert something raw and unignorable into an environment that was built for very different, considerably more mundane purposes. The supermoto is not a statement of recklessness. It is a statement of existence. He is here. He is capable. He is moving through your city in a way you are not, and you saw it, and that last part matters more than any of the others. The machine is a tool for that. Everything else is secondary. The fourth type is the one who quit at 23 when life arrived in the way life tends to quietly, incrementally, and then suddenly and completely, and who is now 42 and just bought a KTM from a guy across town who barely rode it. Something happened, a birthday, a conversation he does not quite remember the details of. A specific Tuesday afternoon with a quality of silence in it that asked a question he could not answer. He did not buy the bike because anything changed. He bought it because everything stayed exactly the same for too long, and something in him noticed. The psychology here is the most layered and the most universal of the four archetypes, because it is not really about motorcycles at all. This is not a midlife crisis. A midlife crisis is about acquiring status symbols objects that communicate a version of success to other people, that say, "Look what I have become." This is something quieter and far more personal than that. This is about recovering a specific relationship with physical risk, with the outdoors, with a version of the self that predated the world's opinion of who he should be and what his life should look like. The first time he rides again, the bike is harder than he remembered. He is slower than he expected. His body sends him a fairly comprehensive report on its position regarding the proceedings, and the report is not encouraging. He does not care. Not because he is performing toughness for anyone watching, because the difficulty is exactly what he came for. It means the thing is real. It means he is present in a way that does not happen often enough anymore. He is not trying to go back to something. He is trying to find out what is still there, what survived everything that happened in between. The KTM he bought is not the same as the one he had at 19. He is not the same either. That is precisely why he bought it. Four completely different people. Four completely different relationships with a machine that is, at its core, just a motor and two wheels that works best in places most sensible people would prefer to avoid. What connects them is not danger. It is not rebellion. It is not even the bikes themselves. What connects them is a specific need that the normal week cannot satisfy, a need for feedback that is immediate, honest, and physical. You either cleared the jump or you did not. The city either saw you or it did not. The track either responded to your inputs or it corrected you with no ambiguity whatsoever and no delay. In a world of delayed feedback, abstract rewards, and performance reviews that happen once a year after a great deal of careful calibration, that immediacy is not just attractive. For certain people, it is not optional. The mud, the city streets, the jumps, and the garage with the clean bike in it are all different answers to the same question. Everyone in this world is asking it, even if they would never describe it that way, and even if they cannot quite explain why Saturday morning at a motocross track before 8 o'clock feels more real than most of what happened during the week. If you know which one you are or which one is in your garage thinking about taking the bike out this weekend, tell me in the comment. And if you recognize someone else in here more clearly than yourself, that probably tells you something too. Subscribe if this is the kind of conversation you want to keep having.